Organizations and leaders have been challenged with achieving their digital transformation priorities at unprecedented speeds. Legacy paper-based processes make it challenging for organizations to maintain service continuity to its internal and external customers. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Shehan Kumar, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Federation of IT Industry in Sri Lanka, better known as FITIS. So we are really happy that you are able to connect with us this afternoon to discuss a very trending topic in Sri Lanka, if you can call it, because recently some high-profile organizations have decided to go ahead with the implementation of eSignatures. So it is in this context that we at FITIS decided to organize this webinar, and we are indeed delighted that Wacom, a global leader in providing such solutions, has joined hands with us today for this session to find out and discuss how organizations across the world and in Sri Lanka are embracing the idea of e-signature adoption and changing the way we do business. We have a star-studded panel this afternoon, including Professor Gihan, the Chief Executive Officer of the LK Domain Registry, Mr. Channa de Silva, Chief Executive Officer at LankaClear, and Mr. Shashi Kishore, Regional Sales Manager at Wacom Technology Corporation, who are our knowledge partners for this afternoon. So we have some of the industry's best people talking with us. And I would like to first of all introduce our first speaker, Professor Gihan. Professor Dias graduated from the University of Moratuwa in 1985 and was awarded a doctorate in electrical engineering and computer science from the University of California, Davis in 1992. In addition to being a professor in computer science and engineering and director international relations at the University of Moratuwa, currently Professor Gihan serves as the domain registrar of the LK Domain Registry and as an advisor to TechCert, Sri Lanka's first computer security team. For us at FITIS, he is a well-loved and respected individual. He currently serves as the Senior Vice Chairman of the Federation of IT Industry. While a graduate student in the US, Professor Gihan led the initiative to form SLNet, a community of Sri Lankans on the net, and LuckNet, a non-profit organization. He set up the first email systems in Sri Lanka in 1990 and ran the academic internet in Sri Lanka, Learn, for over 10 years. He has been active in several areas of computing, including computer networking, language technologies, e-learning, and so much more. So he is a well-respected and well-known personality in the industry. And I would like to invite Professor Gihan to speak a few words and provide us the starting point for this topic this afternoon. Over to you, Professor Gihan.
Thank you very much, Shehan, and all the others. Yeah, it's a very, I would say, a very, very valuable topic. So let me try to explain what this is. So I would like to talk about e-signatures and digital signatures. But before I go on to that, let's see what we do. I think the sponsor advertisements also mentioned some of these. So let's see what actually these are about. Sorry. Many companies are still using manual processes, right? I mean, right now, just before this, somebody wanted me to sign the check. And then what did they do? I'm at home today. So they wrote the check, right? Got a three-wheeler guy, gave him the check and asked him to come. So he came all the way here to Mount Lavinia. I signed the check and now he's on his way back to get the second signature from the other person. Now imagine what a waste of effort that is to get a piece of paper signed, right? And this is what we are talking about. Why is it that somebody has to send a check from somewhere to somewhere and then get it signed, and then it goes somewhere else and get it signed, and then it goes to the bank, and then basically after that, as Channa will mention, everything gets digitized and everything goes online, right? So this is the problem where we are now. Everything is manual. But we want to move to digital processes where all our documents are digital and they work digitally. Now, I'm not going to talk about digital workflow today. That's a separate topic. Maybe we'll talk about it some other time. We look at the manual process. Now, the digital process, if we took the situation maybe a year and a half ago, people were in offices, right? I mean, this is how we used to work. We used to work in offices. So every morning, people got into cars and buses and trains and came to this place called the office, and they worked there the whole day. And in the evening, they get back into cars and buses and trains and went back home. But while they were in the office, we know who's there. The computers belong to us, and everything is inside our firewall. But today, we are using digital processes, and very often we are working from home. Now, you might say, oh, no, that was earlier, but now we're working from office. But really, in many companies, we are still, irrespective of COVID-19 or pandemic, whatever, we are working from home or from other places. And we find that we have very little control over what people are doing. So, for example, right now I'm at my house, Shehan is somewhere, Channa is somewhere, and the other speaker is, I believe, from some other country, and all over the place. Now, what we are looking at, or what we are not really looking at, what we are doing right now, but we want more and more people to get to that, is to set up digital processes with your partners, with your suppliers, with your customers, with the government, with banks, the customs, whoever else. And how do we do that? We need to go from these paper-based documents, right? Having pieces of paper which you fill up. Okay, you can't see this, right? Okay, which you fill up and sign and send to other people, to digital documents which are processed on a computer or a phone and maybe sent to another person by email or stored in a shared location, say Office 365 or whatever. And we need to do this in a very good way. And for that, we need confidentiality. That means when we send something, we need to make sure that the document is confidential. Then we need integrity. What does integrity mean? That suddenly you should not see that somebody has changed your slides. Then authenticity. Authenticity means we should know who wrote, or at least who signed that document, right? If I sign a paper document, right, with an ink and send that document to you, how do you know I signed it? Well, if you are very good and you know all about how to verify signatures, you might check my signature against a signature card and say, it looks very similar, right? But how many times have you done that? If you are not working in a bank or someplace like that, how many times when you get a document, a letter, something signed by somebody, how many times have you checked it against a signature card? We don't, right? So really, we don't have much authenticity. And then the fourth, is that non-repudiation. That means even if the correct person wrote the document or signed the document, he should not be able to claim he didn't write it. Now, this is very important in legal issues where you might sign an agreement with a party, and when things go wrong, he will say, no, I never signed it. What is that document you have? It must be a forgery. I never signed that. Now, you have to go to court and prove that this signature is belonging to this person. How can you do that? Not so easy, right? Let's say you have a piece of paper with somebody's so-called signature on it. Now, can you go to court and prove that it is actually that signature? Where that person who apparently signed it claims, no, I didn't sign it, this must be a forgery. Right? So these are problems, right? Confidentiality, integrity, authenticity, and non-repudiation. So any system which has digital documents should have all four of these, right? So if you have paper documents, we are used to them. We can check the integrity. We can check the authenticity. We can check the non-repudiation. Well, right? We could. Now let's look at electronic signatures. Now we have got used to, in the last 1.5 years, of eSignatures. That is, you take documents, Microsoft Word documents, PDFs, whatever it is, and sign it. So I am now signing this saying, I hereby promise to pay you 1 million rupees. And I put a signature here. So if you want, you can take this document, right? Take a printout and take it to my bank, and I'm sure they will pay you 1 million rupees, right? Why? It's got my signature on it now. So obviously you don't expect my bank to pay this, but this is a problem, right? If I take a check and I put an electronic signature on that check, is it valid? Good question, right? The answer is not necessarily no, but you have to be very careful, right? So electronic signatures can be forged. Repudiation is easy. You say somebody else may have copied it, and of course a document can be changed after signing. So this very simple electronic signatures where you just take an image of your signature, right? You can just scan it, right? I can get a image of the signature of the president or Channa or anybody. It's very easy. All I had to find is find down some document they have signed, scan it. I have a scanner, or I can just use a camera, and then I have an electronic signature. Not very useful, right? And also, even if I have a document which is actually signed by somebody, I can then change the document to add or delete or anything I like, because the electronic documents, how can you see if they have been changed or not? So what do? What we need is better electronic signatures. And how do we get better electronic signatures? Using biometrics. What are biometrics? Something which checks to see who has signed it. So now these days we are used to putting our fingerprint here and there. Very often when you go into the office, I don't know how it happens in your office, but in our office, when you want to get into the room, you have to keep your finger on a fingerprint reader, and then if it decides that your finger is correct, right, it will open the door. Some other offices, they have a iris scanner where you have to look into a camera and it opens the door. Maybe you can have a voice print where you say something, right? Maybe it asks you to say your name, right? Whatever it is, or you can use handwriting. So handwriting is something we are very familiar with. I mean, fingerprints, all of these are also very good techniques. Handwriting, the good thing is we are used to handwriting, and we are also used to handwriting our signature, right? We are typically, most people sign various things every day. So using handwriting as an electronic signature is also a good idea. It's not, I'm not saying the other ones don't work, but handwriting will work, and we will talk much more about it when we look at the Wacom product, right? But I would also like to say that, okay, electronic signatures does not necessarily only mean handwriting. Any of these others can be used for electronic signatures, and all of these are called biometrics. What we mean by biometric is some system checks some biological feature of the person who wrote it. So in a case of a handwritten thing, whether it is written in the normal way that that person would write the signature, and if so, it will verify it. So you can't just take somebody else's signature and show it, right? Or just take a photocopy or something. That won't work, right? Now these are electronic signatures, but there is another thing. Let me just talk about it. These are called digital signatures. So a digital signature is a cryptographic method to indicate the authenticity and integrity of a document. Now, you might not understand what that means, but I will tell you. It is some digital information which is added to that document. It's inside the document. You can't really see it, but to make it sort of look nice, you can have a picture like I have shown here of your signature. The signature, what you see, the picture here is not really the digital signature. Digital signature is inside the document and you cannot see it as such, but it has a person who signs, the date, and various things are there. It need not be visible. You can easily have invisible electronics or digital signatures, but usually just because people like to see it, we put a nice picture or something. You can put your photograph, whatever you like. And these digital signatures can be verified using software. Again, I'm not going to go into details, and all of these things are there. I'm not going to go into details. There's a secret, there's a certificate authority, and there are so many ways of doing things, right? And this can be done using something like Adobe Acrobat, or there are various things which can be done. Now, one good thing about digital signature is that a digital signature verifies the content of the entire document. Now, remember those days when you had the multi-page document to sign, what do they ask you to do? Can you initial each page and then put your full signature on the last page, right? I'm sure you have done that. Initial each page and put your full signature on the last page. Now, in digital documents, you don't have to do that, because however long the document is, even if it is a 100-page document, when you digitally sign it, right, you sign the entire document and it shows that this signature verifies the document as of the moment of signature. Now, you can modify the document after that, but when you do that, it will invalidate the signature, or it will say this document has been modified after signing, and then it will tell you what are the modifications. So you could do that. For example, you can have a second signature. You can have some comments written. So many things can be done, right? Then authenticity can be done using digital signatures and non-repudiation. So all of these can be done. I will not go into details, right? So in conclusion, we have paper signatures. We are very familiar with that. But actually, I don't believe paper signatures are very good. 99% of the time, nobody checks a paper signature. And even if you do, how do you know whether somebody has actually forged your signature, right? It's not difficult to forge signatures. You know, guys who know how to do it will do it every day. Digital signatures are different from e-signatures. E-signatures are some kind of picture. Biometric e-signatures are e-signatures which have been verified biometrically using handwritten or some other method, and digital signatures use cryptography. Now you can combine them. You can have a digital signature combined with a handwritten signature and biometric. So all of them can be done. I'm not going to go into details. I'm simply saying you can have digital signatures, you can have e-signatures, you can e-signatures which are combined with the digital signatures, all sorts of things, right? And all of these enable integrity, authentication, and non-repudiation. So it doesn't do confidentiality. That's the first thing I said, confidentiality. E-signatures don't do confidentiality. That's a different thing we'll talk about on another day. But digital signatures allow integrity. That means nobody has changed it. Authentication, we can say who has signed it, and non-repudiation says the person who signed it can't later on claim he didn't sign it. Very important, all three of these. And in many ways, it's better to e-signatures or paper signatures, and it's essential for e-transactions. So thank you very much, and we will have a discussion later.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That was Professor Gihan Dias, the CEO of LK Domain Registrar, who's also the Senior Vice Chairman of the Federation of IT Industry. Next, we have a very high-profile speaker to also share his thoughts. I would like to introduce Mr. Channa de Silva. Channa is a well-known ICT industry veteran. He took reins as the General Manager, Chief Executive Officer of LankaClear in December 2015. He brings with him over 27 years of experience encompassing a spectrum of industries, and has had served in several multinational and local organizations. Little known fact, Mr. De Silva went down in history by becoming Sri Lanka's first ever webmaster with the development of Sri Lanka's first commercial website, www.lanka.net, way back in 1994. He was also the engineer responsible for the establishment of the first ever dedicated internet connection in Sri Lanka back in 1995. Some of the major projects implemented by Channa's leadership include the first online newspaper in the South Asian region, Daily News, in 1995, the first radio station online, TNL Radio, in 1996, and the first ever Wi-Fi network in the country. So I would like to invite Channa to share his thoughts on the topic this afternoon. Over to you, Channa.
If you just use an electronic signature in a document, it basically provides the intent, only the intent of the sender. It doesn't provide, any validation or any authenticity of the sender, right? So when we look at, but whereas a digital signature, as Professor Gihan explained, it basically validates three things, which I think he spoke about, which is the authenticity, of the sender, the integrity of the document, that the document has not changed, as well as the non-repudiation, which is the signer, the person who puts the signature cannot run away from the fact that he or she is the one who put the signature. We'll get a little more detail into that little later, but I think the fundamental fact of this, how does it apply in a local context? I think that is where we need to understand from a. So there are two things. One is whether it's legally acceptable, say in a court of law against a fraud or something. Right? The second one is it acceptable to a receiver, which need not go to a court, but which is it acceptable to the receiver, right? And last but not least is how easy or how costly to do these things, right? I think so. These are three areas that we need to look into, right? So from a acceptability in a court of law, so which basically provides under the Electronic Transactions Act number 19 of 2006, which was actually subsequently amended in 2017 to further enhance electronic transactions under the Electronic Transactions Act. So under the Electronic Transactions Act, it's very clear even an electronic signature or even a digital signature, or to that matter, even an SMS is acceptable to provide as evidence in a court of law. So there is no dispute. Any electronic document can be submitted as evidence, right? But the caveat of that is, the problem of that is, once you submit electronic document as evidence, there shouldn't be a way for the defense to tear that apart, disprove that. Right? So for example, if you provide a basic physical, what we call wet signature or handwritten signature on a piece of paper which is scanned or maybe a picture, a defense can say, how to prove that it's you. It could be somebody else, right? So it's very difficult to defend something that, there is authenticity of that document. It's the same person who has signed it, or it's still a valid document where the document has not changed. So all these things cannot be provided in a court of law. So there is no question of legality, whether it's a electronic or physical, digitally signed document. But the problem is providing that as evidence and proof, so that you can, provide that as valid evidence. And, it's very, very difficult to disprove. I think that is where the fundamental difference is. The second one is, there are certain documents which are excluded under the Electronic Transactions Act for different purposes. For example, last wills or any documents of that nature. Then power of attorneys, right? Then sale of immovable property. Then bills of exchange or telecommunication license. So there are certain things which are excluded for specific purposes, but other than those which are explicitly excluded, those are admissible under the Electronic Transaction Act as evidence in a court of law. So that is very clear under the electronic transaction. So the problem there is not electronic versus digital. It's not a problem of whether it can be admissible. The problem comes in whether it's defendable. I think that is where the main difference comes in. So in terms of defending, you should be able to defend. If you provide some document as an evidence, you should be able to provide the authenticity of the signature or the person who signed it, right? So which can be done, So for example, so what does the digital signature provide? It provides primarily, as Professor Gihan said, three things. One is the authenticity. It provides the authenticity of the user. I will cover how that authenticity is provided in a much broader manner. Then integrity. So what actually happens in a digital signature when you put a digital signature into a document, which is basically using encryption, public key, private key encryption technology, it provides, because you use a private key of you to sign it, it provides integrity of the document, because there is I'm not going to go into high tech. It basically provides a mechanism if the document is changed after putting the signature, or if the document if the signature is changed after putting the signature, the receiver, once he or she receives the document, will immediately know, because it will immediately display that. It will immediately show that the document has changed, either the document has changed, or the signature has changed, or both, or multiple changes have been done. So the receiver would immediately know this is not the document that the person who put the signature is. So which is clearly visible to the receiver. The second one is non-repudiation. Because a digital signature binds a person who puts a signature into that signature. For example, the person who puts a signature, typically these digital signatures are provided in electronic digital tokens or smart cards or secure device, secure storage of a device. And all these are password protected, where the password or the PIN is only with the intended sender. So because of the nature of digital signatures, it binds a user to that signature, so he or she cannot run away saying, no, it's not, it's not my signature, or I'm not the one who put the signature. So because it can be technologically verified that it's the same person who has put the signature. So which is the non-repudiation. So even whether it's in a physical document or electronic document, very difficult to maintain integrity, because you can change the document and there's no way to check. Right? So the last part, which is the most important in terms of a digital signature, how do you establish trust? With this whole, especially if you are in the business community or same community or any purpose, establishing trust of the intention versus actual somebody authorizing something or approval. How do you establish trust? So for example, when a receiver gets a document or communication from somebody, can that person trust what that was received? So I covered the technology part, but from a digital signature perspective, how it is ensured is there is something called, there is a third party, trusted third party, who verifies that this document was signed by person in this organization, in a particular organization, and it is verified by a trusted third party. Right? So in that sense, that is where the certificate service provider model is there, where a certificate service provider is governed under a certain structure in a country. In Sri Lanka, we have a structure called National Certificate Authority, which is actually provided under the Electronic Transactions Act, and the NCA task force is gazetted. So National Certificate Authority Task Force was established in 2011 to govern the certificate service providers. And under this, the role of the NCA task force is to ensure that the certificate service providers who provide this guarantee or the ensuring trust follow international standards and the processes that they are supposed to follow. So under the National Certificate Authority Task Force, it's right now there is only one certificate service provider who is authorized, which is LankaClear. Basically, the LankaClear was established by the central bank to provide digital signatures to financial sector, especially initially for financial transactions, which is basically there's bulk payments, and also there is check imaging, and also there is dollar imaging systems, and these are actually carried through electronic files. And the first why this was set up was to initially put digital signatures into all these electronic files to ensure that the documents are not tampered with. So that is how the CSP was started, and then later on, based on the requirements of the country, later on the document signing part it has been extended subsequently after setting up of the National CA task force. And so in that sense, getting a digital signature has, in addition to authenticity, integrity, and non-repudiation, it also establishes a trust. But there's a trusted third party who also validates that this belongs to somebody, and this is a genuine, and this is whether actually it can also be expired. It can also be there is an expiry date for the signature as well. So it's not an eternal signature. So whether the signature has expired, all those things are clearly visible to the receiver just by looking at the document once the receiver receives it. So if the document has been modified, it indicates in the document. If the signature has been modified, it indicates. And it also, just by clicking on the signature, the receiver can validate who has issued this digital signature, who is the person who has put this, which organization does this person belong to. All those information is embedded into that document. And also in a digital signature case, you can actually, after, say, if there are multiple people, can put their signatures into a single document, and they can actually once the last person puts the signature, the person can lock the document so that no further amendments can be made to the document, with the document to be altered, or no further signatures can be put in. So all these mechanisms are built in. And the last part is actually the cost effectiveness of this. So basically, the cost effectiveness is, all you need is basically a document, which is basically any document, you convert it into PDF and PDF, and then you can just put your digital signature. So it's very, very simple, very easy to provide. You don't need any additional devices. So I think I just saw a question of whether it's valid internationally. So that is the process actually that we are going through currently. So there is something called a web trust certification. So National Certificate Authority was established as the root signature in the country in February of last year. So currently the operational CSP is going through the web trust certification to align under the national CA and go through web trust certification. So hopefully in Q1 of next year, once the web trust certification is obtained and the alignment with the national CA, the certificate issued will be acceptable cross-border. So questions can be taken later, but I think this part I wanted to cover in terms of how a digital signature differs from an electronic or a physical signature, and also some of the features that are there. Thank you very much. So we can discuss further things in the question section.
Thank you very much, Channa. Now we have a very interesting session. I would like to invite Mr. Shashi Kishore. Shashi is a sales and business development professional with more than 10 years of experience in the technology industry. As the sales manager, Southeast Asia for Business Solutions Division of Wacom, Shashi has helped various large enterprises from across industries to design an efficient, effective, and secure paperless workflow. He is a learner, a go-getter, and a great cricket enthusiast. Over to you, Shashi.
Thank you very much, Shehan, for this great introduction. I feel privileged and honored to share this virtual panel with such a esteemed panelists. And thanks a lot for this great opportunity for me to be able to talk about how Wacom is helping hundreds and thousands of organizations across the globe with their paperless workflow solution. But before that, special thanks to Professor Gihan and Mr. Channa de Silva for laying a strong foundation for this discussion. I would not have been able to, cover such a great definition of first electronic versus digital, then the need of, going digital in probably in this current timing when it's not just need to, good to have, but need to have. We have seen how digitization has helped many companies across the globe survive, the time of pandemic. So what I'll do is I'll try to utilize my time by doing a small presentation about my organization, about things that we have to offer, both in terms of hardware and software, and probably also about technology. And then I would leave it to the audience, because it was very exciting to listen to the definition of electronic signature and digital signature. And I would leave it to the audience to define what Wacom provides, because I was always thinking that it is electronic handwritten signature, but by looking at definition, I guess it fits very well to the definition of digital signature as well. So without wasting any further time, let me start, and kindly let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, Shashi, all good.
Thank you very much. First of all, the motive: Wacom, more human, more digital. So Wacom is a company which is not just promoting digitization, but also we want companies and organizations to not compromise with the human element. How do we do that? This is our Senior Vice President, Mr. Peter Sommer. And as per him, becoming more digital does not mean we need to be less human. And that is the balance which every organization is looking for. Organizations are investing heavily in technology, going digitize, in their digital transformation. But one thing that most of these service providing companies cannot compromise with is the human element, because that, at the end of the day, that differentiates everything. About Wacom, we started in 1983, around 38 years back in Japan. Small details about our organization. Our CEO, Mr. Nobu Ide, revenue as per last financial year around 108 billion JPY, and we are a public listed company traded at Tokyo Stock Exchange. Wacom has various segments, from creative to business solution segment to technology segments, and we are present in more than 176 countries with 11 offices worldwide. About our regional presence, so we are present in all major continents, with our head office in Japan, regional offices in Europe, US, China, and Singapore. And for our Asia Pacific operations, we manage it from Wacom Singapore. So I represent business solution unit of Wacom, and today we'll be covering about business solution, products, solutions, softwares only. But I would also want to talk about the legacy of Wacom in last 39 years, the other two domains that we have: creative business unit and technology business unit. We started with creative business units, and that is a business line which helps most of the creative artists to digitize their workflow, to do things that they were doing on a piece of a paper, on a device, without changing their experience, without learning, unlearning, etc. And there we have 100% market share with Disney, and we have done wonders there. We have more than 85% market share globally. Technology business solution, where we provide our pens. Wacom is primarily a digital pen and ink company. So we have given our ink technology solutions to various companies, some of which you might have seen: your Samsung, Dell, Fujitsu, Acer, Lenovo. Even this pen that I'm using right now from Lenovo is a Wacom technology, which we provide to many ODMs and OEMs. But today our focus would be on business solution units. The newest unit of Wacom was started about a decade back, because we thought the utilization of paper happens in businesses for three reasons: for annotation, for signature, and for seal, putting a stamp there. Focus of Wacom business unit is primarily to help all these sectors to go paperless. We noticed most of the paper documents are used by banking, and that's why all the examples that we have seen from our previous two speakers was primarily about banking, talking about checks and high value transactions. Public sector, so many certificates, documents are issued on a yearly basis, monthly basis, daily basis, yearly basis. Telecom, self-explanatory, point of sales, education, hospitality, and healthcare, of course. Our hardware, we have two different categories: interactive pen displays and signature pads. I would talk about that in detail, and these are some of the images talking about how we cater to various segments. Mr. Narendra Modi, nowadays very reputed figure globally, using it. So in healthcare, in public sector, education, financial services, retail, tourism, the main focus of Wacom is to help organizations design workflows which are without paper, without changing much, without making a huge changes in their operations about how they were doing their previous how they were managing their workflows initially. So what we try to do is we improve efficiencies, we cut cost, and we reduce waste. Tighten security, of course, because I would also want to cover this aspect because the foundation is already laid for how electronic, digital, and what kind of choice you should make, and other factors to consider while selecting one of these solutions. 38 years of legacy has taught us a lot, and serving 176 countries with millions of installation, we have helped many organizations going paperless, and I would probably want to cover some of it. So let me start with a typical paper-based workflow. Professor Gihan talked about how if there is a paper-based process, it consumes time. It consumes effort, logistics, so many other things. You need to prepare a document. You need to print multiple copies for multiple users to be able to use them. You need to sign, sometimes also annotate, fill your information. Then once all this is done, you scan and put a digital copy in digital archive, share a hard copy to customers, keep a hard copy in store. So a very long workflow. If you have a workflow where you don't need paper, you just need a document creation. Most of the documents can be filled using keyboard. If not keyboard, if you need to fill some information, you also have a pen with pen displays. You can write your annotations there. You can sign the document. We'll talk about all those integrity, confidentiality, verifiability, etc. Does it tick that box or not? And then, without having to print any document, without having to get into any kind of logistical mess, you can simply store that e-copy, share it with the customer, and you save a lot of time, money, paper, and you're doing great service to environment, of course. So in terms of cost reduction, by cutting short the process, paper cost that you save, man hours savings. But more than that, when you save time, when you save money, you have more time to interact with your customers. You can talk to them. You can probably talk, not just help them in filling their forms, but also do a lot of cross-sellings and upsellings, and probably can utilize this time to also build a great repo. So okay, now how do we do that? First of all, Wacom, like I said, is a digital pen and ink company. So for business solution domain, we have two separate categories. Just for capturing signature, we have a signature pad. And for filling forms, writing our annotations, special notes, etc., we have pen displays where the entire form can be displayed. A customer can fill in details, sign the document, and those documents can be managed later on. For signature pads, we have two major products: STU 430, 4.5-inch signature pad, where you can probably put your signatures. There are various ways in which people put signatures. Some sign horizontally, some side upwards down, and some start from down, go top. So you have sufficient area to provide your signature. The signature pad connects to a PC through USB cable. There's a Kingston lock to protect this connection. There is a tether to tie this pen with the device. But the speciality of Wacom is we invented this digital pen. 39 years back, we invented not just this digital pen, we invented digital pen, and this pen is battery free. You don't have to charge the pen ever. It is a battery free. It also captures pressure, 102 for pressure level. And I'll talk about this feature slightly later. And this screen is monochrome, so you'll just be able to utilize this for capturing signature. And then you have certain software operated buttons to manage the entire working of the signature capturing process. Then the next signature pad that we have is STU 540. This is a color display signature pad. Certain speciality, you can also show just the terms and conditions of that document. The entire document still has to be shown on a different monitor. You can show the important terms and conditions here. Slightly larger screen. Businesses can show their logos and can also do their advertisements when the device is not in use. So it can also be used as a point of sale advertisement device when it is not in used. It has Kingston lock again, battery-free pen, tether to tie the pen, and pressure sensitivity. In addition to that, we have pen display series. So sometimes businesses need, the customer to see the entire document, read it, write their observations, fill the form. In those cases, we have this 16 inches pen display, which can be used in both portrait and landscape mode. You can show the entire form. Form can be filled by hand, and then right at the end, you can sign it. There are multiple stands, and these devices require external power connection to be used. We use a Pro pen here. A Pro pen means you can put, I'm sorry about this, the actual pressure point for this device is 8092. So it can take about 8192 pen pressure level. And we use Pro pen. The back side of the pen is an eraser. So if you need to correct something, you can just flip the pen, erase that, and complete your form filling and signing process. The next in line is a 10.6 inches interactive pen display. This one has pen and finger touch input. So in healthcare, many a times doctors want to, when they are treating their patients, they want to explain certain reports to the patient, and they want to use zoom in, zoom out process also for certain banking processes, for loan origination, where they have to deal with multiple pages. They want to use the finger touch option to flip through pages and read them and understand and sign them. So this device can be utilized there. Requires external power supply and has 1024 pen pressure. Same battery-free, cord-free pen. The last in line is DTU1141B. This device can be connected with an external PC just through a USB cable. It does not require any external PC, so it is probably for those counters where you do not want to have external power supply, do not want to have too many cables. It has 4 touch buttons which can be customized for any software requirements. Again, a battery-free pen, pressure sensitivity, and a pen tether. Very, very important. I'm always mentioning this pen tether part because it's very crucial. It ensures that you are never losing this important pen, because the pen and the device works in tandem. You cannot use these pen interchangeably. Not just that, like I said, Wacom also provides its technology to other OEMs and ODMs. So Samsung is one which uses our technology for last so many times. They call their pen smartest pen ever, and that's like the most basic pen that Wacom provides to them. So you can also utilize these pens for form filling, signature capturing. We provide our SDK support, and all these pens and devices work on patented EMR technology, electromagnetic resonance technology. Wacom has more than 1,500 patents for this technology. Now, so what is the EMR advantage? And we heard about electronic signature. So any signature which is even scanned through a paper can be categorized as electronic signature. But how this kind of electronic handwritten signature is different, we also call digital, because there's a very thin line of difference, and our signatures probably can be categorized at both electronic and digital. So how does it do it? So there are sensors that sit behind LCD panel. These sensors are capable of capturing more than 200 data points per second. Highly calibrated and precisely calibrated sensors. It does not even lose one single stroke, which ensures that incredibly accurate information is captured. So it does not know what I'm doing, what kind of, whether I'm writing some numbers or letters, but it knows that when I'm putting my pen near to the sensor, it starts, the resonance starts, and it starts interacting, and it captures all those data points, which become very, very important when we talk about verifiability, document integrity, and other aspects of electronic signature. This pen is unique. It has a unique pen ID, and hence the information transferred from the pen to the device is very, very unique. It can be provided as a unique ID, and that is one parameter through which we do verification as well. And this entire setup improves productivity and efficiency significantly. You're cutting out all those papers, you're cutting out all those times. In fact, we were speaking to one of the banks last week, and they told us that for a simple account opening process, they were using 13 paper documents earlier. And when they invested in our technology, now the actual paper requirement as per the local law has reduced from 13 to 10. The time that it was taking earlier to open an account was about 35 minutes because they follow some stringent process. And now it has been reduced to around 10 minutes only. And in terms of cost, the number was very hard to believe. We are asking for evidence because then ROI, they said that ROI was achieved in less than 3 months' time. Now, EMR, it does all the wonders. It does all the wonders. It provides, it helps us to capture dynamic performance. The reason why scanned signature is not a perfect e-signature is because it is static. It does not have any dynamic information to itself, while a signature captured by Wacom through hardware and SDK combination is dynamic in nature. How dynamic and what all features that we capture, I'll be covering in next slides. All our pens would be cordless, battery free, and of course digital. Now, you must have seen various devices who also have pens. There are so many. We invented signature pad concept. We invented interactive pen display concepts, and now there are few other players who are coming to the market, and they are trying to offer their solution. But how we are different is those are touch sensor devices. So the interaction is based on this surface here. While for Wacom, the first one is just a cosmetic for cosmetic usage. It's just a glass. The second one is an LCD display, and beneath that is our sensor. So the sensor is always protected. So if there is any wear and tear on the surface, the performance, the data capture performance of the device would never go down. We have tested it for 10 million signature, and there was not even a small variation in data capture accuracy. Why do we call our signatures biometric, right? So e-signature, probably so many things. I mean, verifiability, I definitely agree that's the most important thing. First of all, signature, while I agree with most of the points that fingerprints, eye scanner, some people say even tongue can be a great identity management system, but that does not talk about your intent. There's a concept of showing your intent for signing a contract, and that intent is generally managed by signature, and that's why signature is a huge part of our life. Someone, your fingerprints can easily be copied. It does not talk about you can forcefully put your fingerprint. I mean, someone can ask you to forcefully put your fingerprint on a document, and then legally it is acceptable. The same thing can happen with so many other device-based solution, where if someone has access to your password, he can simply plug in that device, use that password, and can do it on your behalf. But for biometric signature, these information, the direction of your signature, the stroke information, the pressure points, the shape of the signature, and I'll do a practical demonstration after this, and you'll understand it's impossible to copy these points. I'm not just saying it's difficult, I'm saying it's impossible to copy these points with 100% accuracy, because if you're awake and in your senses, there's a specific direction, there are specific stroke pressures, there are specific shapes that you put to your signature, which is very difficult to calculate from piece of paper, because a paper cannot capture all those information. But the beauty of these digital devices are you can definitely capture those informations, and that's why about legality, we are operational in those many countries and working with all those kind of customers. So what kind of behavioral characteristics does this information, I mean, apart from image, of course, what other behavioral characteristics this device is able to capture is pen pressure, pen speed, pen up, very, very important, and direction. So if I sign, let's say I sign, someone can very easily copy this image. But what is very difficult for someone to do is copy how much pressure I applied at each and every point, the sequence of how I started, how I finished, how much time I took to complete this, and the acceleration, how I started, how I finished, how much time I started from the first point to the last point, and for how much time my pen was in air. Generally, people have two names, and when they sign, there's a significant, even for one name, they lift their pen and they provide all those information, and it is very difficult to calculate those things, not just on piece of paper but also through other systems. Now, of course, I mean, in benefits of biometric signature is self-explanatory, but what I'll do is I'll talk about what are those biometric data that we are capturing. So first of all, when you use either our signature pads or pen display, the first information that it captures is the time, the date. That's the first information. So in a court of law, whenever there's any dispute, the first thing, if someone says I didn't do it, I was not there, I mean, that's the first thing. We've been able to help few banks win these disputes with some of these very basic information. But more than that, I'll try to see if it is visible for you. The other information that the device captures is measure distribution of each and every stroke point, dynamic display of your signature. So if you see this image, it shows each and every information, how much pressure was applied at each and every point. The next one is description of signature. So you would know which signature device was used, what was the serial number of that signature device. You definitely have the time, the date. You have the NIC, the card number of the device that this signature pad was connected to. You also have the MAC ID of the signature pad, etc. You have signature measures, various coordinates, X, Y, T, and P coordinates. So you also have your time and pressure coordinates. You absolutely have the image. So if you see these two images, you'll see that these two might look similar when the final signature is taken, but for the device, they look at it very, very differently. Then you have pressure and time graph. You can see the speed, pressure, and angle of the signature. You have other signature pad metrics and the overall file information. So these are the information that we are able to capture through this device. These are about hardwares. I mean, so that is, Wacom is just a solution enabler. We do not provide complete solution to all those industries that I talked about, and we have different kind of SDK solutions to help solution providers work with us and help their end customers. And sometimes end customers, they have their great in-house IT team, and they want these kind of support so that they can utilize these kind of solutions in their existing workflow. First thing about our device is very, very easy to integrate in existing workflow. You don't have to change the workflow at all. It can be utilized in your existing workflow. So the first thing that we do is we provide SDK, Wacom Inc SDK. Wacom has a proprietary Inc language. We call it WIL, Wacom Inc layer language. The most comprehensive form of Inc. We are going to launch so many things in future, probably in next 2 to 5 years. Our vision is of Inc computing, where so many things can be done with Inc and so many other certifications, etc. But that is something for future. We also provide for SMEs who have their PDF based solutions. So through this SDK, you can automate your workflows. If the workflow is on web, you can utilize this SDK. If it is on desktop based devices, you can do that. Any customer workflow can be completely digitized using these SDKs. Plugin can be used to simply capture basic signature on a PDF document. And then we have a Sign Pro PDF series where we provide both the application through which you can capture signature, you can annotate, you can fill forms, you can convert your handwritten notes into text, and then APIs. If you wish to integrate, utilize web-based applications and have the features of Sign Pro PDF application, you can also use APIs there. Now, one common thing we heard about those document integrity part. Now the same applies to this as well. If you're using a plugin with Wacom device to sign a PDF document, your signature cannot be copied. Your signature is a part of that document. It cannot be, it is embedded into the document. It cannot be extracted. You can never use that signature later on. it is stored in a .fss, which is a Wacom proprietary format in the document. And if there are any changes to the document later on, there'll be a red cross in the document, which means the consent was not given or the intent was not shown for that form of document. Different kind of SDKs we have some for signature, we have for verification, we have for multiple devices. We are now not restricting ourselves or our customers or our partners to Wacom only hardware. We are now opening up and we are collaborating with various kind of pen enabled service providers. So Apple, Microsoft, all of them are our partners now. They are not just them, there are so many ink companies, MyScript, etc. They are also utilizing our ink SDK technology, and they are improving their workflows, and we have something for documents as well. So that is in brief, because we have limited times, about our ink, about our hardware, about SDKs, and about complete applications solution, about complete solution where you can just use a Wacom device, you can use SignPro PDF, connect it and start using it as plug and play, and you can have your absolutely verifiable, admissible in quote, signatures. At this point, I would also want to talk about, since admissibility was a big question, acceptability by various international courts, international certification agency was a question. I would like to inform our audience here that we work with various kind of public sector agencies. For example, in US, Australia, Philippines, Indonesia, and India, we're working with Supreme Courts, High Courts, Police Department. There are so many countries which are working on integrated court justice system, where they want to integrate police stations to courts, and there we are digitizing the record system of police, and we are transmitting it to courts, and courts are writing their observations here, they are signing it, and if they make it admissible, then everyone follows suit. We are working with some of the top brands globally, all kind of banks, more than 100 in our kitty. We are working with some of the biggest hospitals and healthcare chains. We're working with biggest telecom companies. We're working with different kind of agencies, and with our SDK for verification, things have become very easy. We were not offering it to customers earlier. We were just asking them to give their consent for us to help them whenever there's a dispute. We have a technology called Signature Scope, through which we can capture all the information, but we never shared that information to our customers or partners. That information is not even accessible to Wacom. Complete enterprise solution, no information is accessible to anyone, but we were sharing it with forensic document examiners whenever there's dispute, so that they can verify and they can reach to a conclusion whether the document is genuine, whether the signature intent was there, and whether integrity part, a confidentiality part, I'm not sure if confidentiality can be taken care of, but the authenticity part, etc. Can be very easily checked. There are so many white papers from document examiners who have certified Wacom hardware and SDK technology, and how the verifiability part, the integrity part can be taken care of. At this point, I also wanted to show a small practical demonstration of our verification. Shehan, if we have time, if we can do that.
Yeah, we can.
Thank you very much. Casey, can you please share your screen if you're there? I'll stop sharing mine. Thank you very much. So I have with me Mr. Casey and Mr. Kirihara-san. Mr. Casey is our solution consultant based in Thailand, and Mr. Satoru Kirihara is from Tokyo, Japan. Mr. Casey is, he has developed this wonderful application through which we can, so this is scenario-based application. Casey, I guess we would be, we'll go ahead with banking examples, and this will give us a very good idea of about how the entire workflow can be managed. So we'll start with initial registration. This is for a customer who goes to a bank first time for initiating a relationship, probably for opening a bank account. And there are two screens that Casey is using. This is a teller screen or the bank staff screen, and this is a customer screen. Right now that you see on your screen is a customer screen. So we are using a pen display. I guess we are using DTK1660E, our 16 inches pen display. and the other screen was a bank staff screen. Okay, thank you very much. Right. So Casey, let's see how the initial account opening formality would be done and how we can. Yeah.
1 second, please.
No problem. Issues. Okay, so this is the bank staff screen, and Casey as a customer will fill the form. He will write his name. He's writing his name here. Casey. Okay. All right. And birth date. And this entire information is shown real time to the bank staff. So Casey, if you can just keep filling this and put the bank staff screen. Thank you. Okay.
Oh.
Okay, as you can see, whatever was inputted there by Casey through our SDKs, the entire information is converted to text and is put in these predefined forms. And he provides his basic information, and then the signature field is already predefined. Now, once every information is provided, a customer would put in his signature. Can we switch back to your view, Casey, so that before signing any contract, there are certain terms and conditions which are shown to the customer, be it analog or digital workflow. That's a mandate. So it would be shown to the customer. He reads it, he agrees to it, and signs it. So once this button is clicked, if you can notice here, Casey is in Thailand, so maybe it is his time zone, 6:41 Thursday. Today's date, and signee is Kichaka IC, which is Casey's full name, and then he signs it. Okay, so Casey likes Donald Duck, so he signs it with that name and presses next. Once he presses next, the screen now changes to bank staff view, and this document would be processed. This is just an application demo, and then this would be, we have all the information here, it is submitted. And once it is submitted, we assume this would be a very large form with so many information needed, and for registration, there are so many other formalities. There will be some mandatory fields, some optional fields. So once that is done, the basic idea is once you sign it here, you have created a signature profile of a signee. Now that customer comes in again, and this time he wants to do some kind of transaction for which verification is needed. This can be a specific transaction, a high value transaction for which signature verifications are needed, which are generally done manually, regularly in bank kind of a setup. So once he comes there, a bank staff checks the detail, he finds his name there and opens it up. This one, okay. And he checks all these information. I guess, okay, right. So he checks this information and he has a signature. And now for carrying this transaction forward, he asks the customer to sign again. The customer, of course, puts a request for the kind of transaction they want to do, and then he signs once more. Yeah. And then again, there's this. Now, as you can see, it looks a very plain, simple signature, nothing very classy about it. Let's click complete, just an image. But so much of the information is already passed to the system. Now let's see how the system has worked. Let's check the verification score. Okay, I guess you made it perfect. I guess you Donald Duck is not your real name, and that's why it shows. So if you read this thing here, it shows 100% score. The engine that we're using is dynamic. What that means is, so till a couple of years back, we were only supporting Wacom based solution, and hence all your signatures would be dynamically captured. But there are so many businesses across the globe who have captured millions of signature on a piece of a paper, and they had this problem. They wanted us to help them with that. So what we did was, this year in the month of August, we launched our latest signature verification technology that is called GSV, General Signature Verification, which can help those customers who have signed on a dynamic device like Wacom, to verify signatures, but can also help those customers who did not have this kind of signature profiles earlier, who had paper-based signature profiles, and they want to compare it with dynamic signatures. Not just that, in few countries, for example, in Indonesia, law is very vague. They're not very sure whether electronic signature or digital signature is acceptable or not in banks. So many of the banks are hesitant. There, few banks are only utilizing static signature verifications. So they have their paper-based signature profiles, and they are comparing it with fresh signatures which are captured on piece of paper, and our engine can probably also do that. So if you see here, the mixed score is -1. It's because we are not using static at all. It says that it is consistent. It also talks about how complex your original signature is and how prone it is for any kind of copying. It gives a score of 0.66, which is like, okay. Now let's try to do it slightly differently, Casey, and see if we can probably try to forge. There are two things in any kind of signature scenarios. Let's try to forge it, Casey. There is something called false acceptance and false rejection, and both is a problem for organizations. If there are too many false rejections, you have unhappy customers, and if there are false acceptance, it's a big business loss for the bank. So let's try to capture one more signature. And let's see. I guess you genuinely tried to forge it this time. So, yeah. Right. So the score is 34.85, and there are all rationale also given, why the score is like this. We could see from our eye that the time taken this time was much higher, and also the local shape of signature is completely different. So the system gives a score of 34%. Now the business can decide what is the acceptable level. Should it be 100% all the time? Probably that's not very logical, since there can be some variations. So most of our customers have set a benchmark of 85%. If it is about 85% and above, they accept the transaction. If it is somewhere between 80 to 85, they probably ask the customer to sign. If it is low, probably they still ask the customer to sign one more time, and then if it does not match, you can simply reject it. And you have a logical rationale why something is matching and why something is not matching. So this entire solution, the hardware, which is very, very smart to capture all this information, the technology behind it, SDK, which makes all kind of workflow to be able to accept this kind of signature, and the verification engine, which ensures that no information is retained either by the customer or by us, which is there are so many kind of verification technology based on server, where you need to leak out some of the information for the server to identify, match, and give you a score. But for Wacom, nothing is needed. It is real time. Once you click on verification, it fetches information from signature profile, it compares it from your current signature, gives you a score, and then it is up to you if this profiling is also dynamic in nature. So generally what happens is, if you go to a bank, you give your 4 specimen signature, you might have opened your bank account, let's say 10 years back. So you gave 4 specimen signature 10 years back, and generally banks do not ask you to keep giving specimen signature. This system allows you to refresh that as well, so that if there are any changes, variations, that can also be done. Right. Okay. Do you also have example of static, because that would complete the entire thing? Okay. Okay, right. So assuming that this customer had signed on a piece of paper earlier, and we'll try to see if we can, compare this latest signature with some paper-based, signature, which is in a form of PDF, I'm assuming, right? Okay. And that signature was in a document. So there is a PDF extractor, signature extractor, which extracts that, puts the signature here, and now we'll do verification. And okay, 100%, right? Again, you signed it too well, but you can also do it like this. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Casey.
I have another PDF file which different signatures that we can share as well.
Okay, I guess we have already taken a lot of time.
Okay.
So if we can do it very quickly, probably in next 5-10 seconds, we should do it. Otherwise, thanks a lot for this wonderful opportunity. Anyhow, for us to be able to first talk with such co-panelists who have tons of experience in this field, talked about the need for digitization, digital signature, e-signature, etc. And also for us to be able to talk to so many people, talk about our solutions and talk about how it is different, talk about how it can be implemented, etc. Right at the end, so I'm from India, and I look after Southeast Asia market from sitting here or by sitting in Singapore office. But we have a local, face there in Sri Lanka. Mr. Ashoka is our local representative there, who's doing all these business activities in Sri Lanka, and he has some interesting cases. We have already done few installations there, and he wanted to talk about some of those. So if we have time, probably next couple of minutes, he can make it more local, because most of the examples that I've given is from outside. So probably some local touch would also be good if we have time. Mr. Ashoka?
Yes, yeah. Ashok, if you can, yeah.
Hi, thank you, Shashi. We represent Wacom in Sri Lanka. I'll just briefly, I think I need to share my. Our association with Wacom is over 15 years now. So we are from ABC Computers. We represent the creative product line as well as the business product line. And we have just created a new website. It's called www.wacombusiness.com. You can actually log into this website. There are lots of our experience of work we have done here. Lots of white papers, videos, and other material that you can use. And also our contact details. And we have already created a good ecosystem here with a couple of system integrators who can help you to do integration into your existing systems. So over to you, Shehan.
Thank you, Ashoka. So we'll move on to the Q&A session. I think if you can request the panelists to switch on their cameras, Channa and Professor Gihan. So actually they have more than 25 messages that have come in, but we managed to filter them out and take them in. So I have a question to Channa. I think you have probably already taken it during your initial presentation. The question is, has a digitally signed document ever been challenged in a court of law where enforceability has been challenged? Can we use electronic signature in documents tendered to court in pleadings?
Actually, I'm not a judge, so it's a question that should be asked from the courts. But so it's two things, right? Actually, we had a session to the banks 2 weeks ago. Honorable Justice from Court of Appeal, actually gave a session. We had more than 300 participants from the banking sector. So basically, he so the first is digital. First we need to get people to use digital signatures before we can produce in a court of law, right? So if people are not using digital signatures, what is there to produce? So the example that even Sri Lanka Customs were using electronic documents only from 1st of August this year. they mandated that traders to use digitally signed documents to customs for clearance of goods. So in terms of providing evidence, so it's not only digitally signed documents, even SMSs have been provided as evidence. So anything that is electronic, which comes under the Electronic Transactions Act, can be provided as evidence. So as I said in the session, the problem is how confident, how possible are you to defend it? That is where the problem is. So when you provide basic digital documents or electronic documents, maybe with a wet signature in a scanned image or that form, even SMS, you need to provide other mechanisms. Now, for example, if you provide the SMS, you may tie that to your mobile number, and then that mobile number, maybe telecom records that you have used it, all those information will have to be provided as, part and parcel of the total. So in that sense, you may be able to prove in a court of law that this SMS was sent by you by using this mobile number. And at this time, based on the geolocation of that mobile device, you might be able to provide some evidence that you were there in whatever location. So all this additional information will have to be provided. So in order to prove. But if you use, so that's where the difference comes in a digital signature. If you use a digital signature, all these are built in as technologically built into the whole thing. So something that is will be easy to prove and easy to be verified even in a setting of a court of law. So the question is whether this has been submitted. So not digital. I mean, even SMSs have been submitted as evidence.
Right, Channa, thank you so much. I think that could answer the question of the participant. Next, there's a question. I would like Professor Gihan to take that. Professor, the question is, the whole world is looking for a permanent solution for this pandemic. And I'm sure we all can overcome the problem and then we can work as usual. Are we going to continue with the e-signature after the pandemic, or will we continue as before when people can meet personally? Basically the question is, are e-signatures or digital signatures here to stay?
Right, that's a very good question, Shehan. So the question we are really facing is, okay, now let's hope for the best and assume that this pandemic is mostly out of the way and we can go back to moving around and visiting people and having physical meetings and so on. Okay, fine. Now, does that mean we don't need e-signatures anymore? Yes, it would probably mean that if everybody worked in the same office and they came to office every day and they could sign things, yeah, so it's no longer needed, right? But let's look at the real situation. People live in different cities. So even in a company, you will often have 100, 200 branches all over the place. And then we have people all around the world and who need to exchange documents. So what do we do now? We take a document, we sign it, we give it to DHL or whoever and tell them, okay, give it to that, send it there, they sign it and they send it back. Right? Now, do we really want that? Then, but what does that really give me? Let's just take that example. I wanted somebody in, let's say, Mumbai to sign the document. So I create the document, I fill it up, I sign it, I send it to Mumbai via DHL. And then say 3-4 days later, I get another, I get a document back on DHL and it has a piece of some signature on it. So what does that mean, right? Does it mean that the person I expected signed it, or did somebody else sign it? We have no real idea. So this piece of paper, signing piece of paper, is actually something which is almost meaningless unless you really know who the signer is and you know what it is, right? And you actually check the signature carefully, right? 99.9% of the time we don't check any signature, right? So these paper signatures are not very good. So we are solving two problems here. One is the authenticity, integrity, all those things we mentioned, we are checking. And also, I also forgot, so if somebody signs a piece of, if you sign a piece of paper and then afterwards somebody adds a few words to that, right? can you say, no, I never signed it with those words? How are you going to even say that, no, I signed this one, but later on somebody added another paragraph at the bottom, right, before my signature? What are you going to do? Now, electronic signature or digital signature really signs the entire document, and any changes are marked as these changes have occurred after this person signed it. And so there are a lot of things which a digital signature does, which a physical signature does not. And also the ease of sending these here and there, right? You can do it on the web. You can just go to a website and sign things. You can email it. You can send it through Adobe, or, you know, so many possible things are there. So it is like much more convenient than digital, than paper signatures. So I believe that this pandemic is a good catalyst. I mean, there are so many bad things about the pandemic, but there are good things also. And one of the good things is that it's a catalyst which allows us to understand, okay, certain things can be done. Otherwise, you would have never done it. But now we have done it. Let's not keep doing it simply because, oh, I can't go somewhere, so I, you know, send piece of paper. I mean, I just send electronic copies. Let's do it because it is better, it is more secure, it is more authentic, and it has all the features which are not available on piece of paper. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Gihan. I think you brought in some really good insights to the question. Shashi, there's a question I think you can take. What are the best practices recommended to avoid duplication of documents with e-signatures?
Right. So very good question. I guess with e-signature, it is already taken care of because, like I said, for every signature, there'll be a timestamp. There'll be a location mapping. There'll be device information provided, both the device which was used to capture signature and the device that it was connected to. So for duplication, you can always, map these events. You can have one event happening after the other. So you understand which is the original one, which is the edited one, or which is the first one, which is the second one. There can't be two events happening simultaneously. So that in itself can probably take care of duplication part, which is very difficult on a paper-based workflow. I completely agree with all the disadvantages that Professor Gihan with his experience mentioned.
Right. Thanks, Shashi. So there's another question. I think if Channa can take that one also, that'd be great. We use different e-signature, like signature image, PDF e-signatures. In case someone copies and makes a forged document, how to validate its credential? I think you must have touched on that also, but if you can just elaborate a bit about that as well.
So in a physical signature or e-signature, you can copy, but you cannot copy a digital signature. You cannot copy paste a digital signature. So it's not allowed. By default, it's not allowed. So you cannot copy and paste a digital signature, but you can always copy a physical signature, or electronic signature. So by default, it's not allowed. So you cannot copy.
Right. There's another interesting question. I think we wait for Professor Gihan to take it over. It goes, what would be the potential measures to be taken for winning the trust of the public about electronic signature? That's a good question, I think.
Good. Yes, that's a very excellent question. Let me try to do it. Now, obviously, our public or any other the country's public are very reluctant to do things they are not familiar with. Let me go back maybe 30 or 40 years for the first ATMs. Right now, I mean, we are so used to getting money from ATMs, but some of the older people here, maybe not the younger people, will remember where the only way to get money from a bank is to go there between 9 o'clock and 1:30, right? If you are late, okay, no money for that day, and then go and stand in a queue and get your money, right? Then we came up with, or we found that, okay, there were these things called ATMs, and everybody was very worried about them, saying, oh my God, what is this? I go and there is no signature, there is nothing. I just put a card and some money comes. What if somebody steals the card, right? But yes, those are actual problems. I mean, there's a huge amount of ATM fraud going on in the world. That's a different matter, but now we are used to that, right? Similarly, for other things, now we are actually used, so maybe again, thanks to the pandemic, of ordering things online. We go, we order things and things come. But still, of course, we do see, so separate about e-signatures, still people are very reluctant to use credit cards online. So this is something Channa, I think, is very much aware of. Maybe he'll talk about it. So people are scared, right? They would prefer not to give their card number online because they are scared somebody will steal it or something. But still, we now have got used to it. Now, similarly, I think we should show that this is possible. My personal feeling is we should not worry too much in this stage of inter-organization e-signatures. That should be there, but if things are getting delayed, okay, so be it. Let's look at having e-signatures or digital signatures within your organization, because there the Electronic Transactions Act is quite clear, right? It is allowed, it is legal, there's no question about it, right? And all you have to do is get your board of directors to approve that, okay, when I do a purchase requisition, when I do a voucher, when I do a leave application, when I do a something, and I do it with an electronic signature, that is perfectly valid in the company. And the risk is also low because these are internal things, right? So you are not really sending money outside, right? So of course there is a certain possibility, but so my suggestion is we start internally, and when we are comfortable with it, then start moving outside. So for example, a bank, just my advice is they may be scared to accept electronically signed documents from customers, right? Then do it internally. Even right now, I know most of the banks, their internal stuff is actually sent by internal email. It's not even digitally signed, it's just internal email, and they're happy with that. But if certain documents, they start exchanging it internally, and I assume you all know, Channa will tell you more about it, every single check you write is actually scanned and digitally signed, and it goes to the receiving bank as a digitally signed check image, right? There is no physical check going anywhere these days. They're just, I don't know exactly what happens, but they don't go anywhere. And that's been done for a long time. People don't know, but we should tell the banks, do you know how the checks work? Do you know how things work internally? Why don't you try this out? And then maybe ask them to try it out with some of their premier trusted customers where they don't have much of a risk. So I think we have to go do that. It's not a problem of the technology. It is not a problem of the law. It is a problem of people not being used to certain things and then being scared. Right? So that's what I would say. Start with things you can control and then move to things you can't control.
Thank you very much, Professor Gihan. So we'll take one last question. I think Shashi can answer that. As a vendor with proven experience in similar software solutions, what are the business synergies available?
Right. So, like I said, Wacom is a solution enabler. We are never into end-to-end solution providing, so we do not tell businesses that this is the best possible way for you to operate. Every business has a set of software vendors, system integrators, service providers that they trust on. The legal system of every country is different. So what we do is we generally tie up with these system integrators, software vendors. We work with many core banking system when it comes to banking, core banking system providers like Finacle, Oracle, Consolidated. There are so many globally that we work on with healthcare, Siemens, Fujitsu, etc. So all these reputed service providers work on a global partnership level. But then, like Mr. Ashoka also mentioned, we have identified 3 wonderful system integrators and solution providers in Sri Lanka. And I was amazed to see how efficient they were, because they could complete integration, the entire signature capturing, verification, and integration workflow in less than 2 weeks time. So we tie up with those kind of partners. We definitely do our background checks, because for a Japanese company, for us, with 4 decades of legacy, trust is the most important thing. So we check the trust of a partner in the market. We see their solution. We try and check their competency, and then we work with them together to reach out to the end customer.
Thank you so much. So I think that concludes our session for this afternoon. I would like to thank our panelists, especially Professor Gihan Dias, Mr. Channa de Silva, and Mr. Shashi Kishore for joining with us this afternoon. Also to Casey and Asoka also for pitching in to provide your valuable contribution. I think this is a fantastic and trending topic right now in Sri Lanka, and I think it all augurs well for the future. Thank you so much to the more than 100, and I think we had around 140 registrants, and I think close to 100 connected today as well. This recording of this session will be available in a couple of days through our FITIS YouTube channel. We'll also email all the registrants a link so that you can also view it in case you missed it. So thank you so much once again for being with us. Let's meet once again with another exciting webinar organized by FITIS. Until then, take care, stay safe. God bless you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.